to go, or have we got more people waiting to join?
Yes, Councillor England, I was just going to say it's 6 o'clock, and I was just going to check with Alex that we're ready to go.
Okay, thank you.
Alex, can you confirm, please?
Yeah, already.
Okay, I'll start the meeting then. Amric, over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Can I ask, do I start prayer now?
In a moment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Amric, are you there? Oh, we've lost him again. Right, if I can just welcome everyone to the council meeting. And as you are aware that due to the COVID-19 restrictions, the meeting is held using audio and video conferencing and available for the public and members to listen to via the audio feed on the agenda page on our website or via the council's.
No, I'm here.
Oh, right. I've just read out your paragraph. Would you like to introduce Anna Parkinson?
You want me to do the whole thing or from the start?
No, I've just done the first paragraph.
Okay.
I couldn't find you.
Yeah,
You
okay.
could do,
I was unlucky. I was on the mute. Sorry about that.
okay.
Okay. I would like to invite Anna Parkinson from Pulaski Gloss to lead us in the prayers this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Many thanks to Councillor Raj Mahaf for giving members of the Interfaith Council to lead in prayer today's meeting. In the name of the Father, Son and Holy Spirit, for the people of Telford and Wrekin, all who are grieving and all suffering with physical and mental ill health. We bring to God all suffering in mind, body or spirit, or with grief, that in God's loving kindness they might know his sustaining presence amidst their pain. Amen.
Thank you very much. That was much appreciated. Could I move on to item 2 then? Apologies for absence. Stacey, do you have any apologies?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have apologies from Councillor Kassar, Councillor Kiernan, Councillor Offland, Councillor Murray, Councillor Malcolm Smith and Councillor Thompson. Okay,
can I ask, are there any other apologies? No, thank you for that, Stacey. Declarations of interest. Have you received any declarations of interest, Stacey?
I believe one has been received, Chair.
Yes, I'd like to invite Carolyn Healy to declare her interest, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'd like to declare an interest in item 10.4. Thank you.
Thank you. And at that point, you will leave the meeting and then rejoin thereafter. Okay. All right, thank you, Councillor. All right, the minutes of the item 4, the minutes of the meeting of Thursday, the 16th of July, 2020. I'd like to invite the leader, Councillor Sean Davis, to propose.
Proposed.
Seconded.
Okay, members are invited to assent or dissent. Dissent, rather. Is there any dissent?
No, Chair.
No dissent, then they are agreed. I declare them accepted. Thank you. Leaders' reports and announcements. Councillor Sean Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's been 4 months since the last meeting of this council, and since then we've seen some of the lifting of the coronavirus restrictions, and we've encouraged people to support local businesses by shopping local, and we still do in a COVID secure way. We were even encouraged by the government to eat out to help out. Today, we are in the second national lockdown, albeit not as restrictive as the first. This is a difficult time for our businesses and our communities, but this council is on their side. That is our commitment. We are doing everything we can to support them. We've worked hard and continue to work hard with our partners to help those in most need. Here are some of the examples of the achievements during the summer holidays and the early autumn. During the school summer holidays, we continue to deliver free school meals to eligible children. We are extending that to cover the Christmas holidays too, and we are aiming to work with partners to provide lunch packs during the Easter holidays next year. We did that whilst the government delayed, blustered, made excuses, and then ultimately decided to listen to Marcus Rashford and others. Our school uniform project helped hundreds of families with the cost of clothing their children ahead of the new school year. I would like to thank all our parish and town councils, our partners, the Interfaith Council, and of course, specifically Councillor Kelly Middleton for her leadership on that project.
Yeah.
To address some concerns about traffic speeds, pedestrian safety and inappropriate parking, we are introducing more road safety schemes around schools. Over the winter, this includes bringing a total of £1.1 million of being invested around our schools since 2018, and will go further in the coming year. Finally, on the subject of schools, I'm delighted to add that today we were due to have completed the delivery of all 320 laptop for learning devices to the children without a computer for their own education. I'd like to thank those members who contributed towards that scheme together with our partners. And as of today, members, there are over 3,000 Telford and Wrekin school children self-isolating at home because of COVID. Many of those 3,000 children will not have laptops, and this, although small in scale, made up for the miserable government allocation of laptops. In addition to laptops for children, we've also delivered tablets to people of all ages as part of our Kindle Kindness campaign, and to help them stay connected. And that's been a real lifeline for those, particularly in hospital and in care homes. And this campaign has now been nominated for a national award. I'd also like to thank everybody involved in that project. And much has happened since we last met. We were honoured to welcome Her Royal Highness the Princess Royal to Telford for the official opening of the bridge in the Telford town centre, and a tour of the Chelsea and Maxwell Gardens, where she met the Friends of the Town Park, who recently received the Queen's Award for voluntary services. She planted a tree to mark the end of the Second World War in regards to VJ Day. The VJ Day anniversary itself was marked with a small but very poignant ceremony that was possible at the time, for it was between the two national lockdowns. However, Remembrance Sunday and Armistice Day this year both fell during the national second lockdown. As with VE Day in the spring, we found creative ways to still come together as a community to mark this occasion. In the future, we will be able to remember them by gathering in person at war memorials that we have invested a huge amount in over recent years. The recently restored Iron Bridge is now lit every weekend evening, another fantastic legacy of Telford at 50. And to provide even more news and security, I was delighted that we were able to get to a position where AFC Telford United have finally signed a 140-year lease at the football club, which helps that club survive and plan for the future. As we enter what is due to be the final week of the current national coronavirus pandemic lockdown, we've learnt today that we will be in Tier 2 from next week. We've been led to believe that the tier allocations will be regularly reviewed by government every 14 days. This means that we do have an opportunity to drive numbers down further. Get a test if you have symptoms. We've been able to expand our testing capacity, which means that people who don't have the common symptoms can still get a test. And we know from other areas of the country, particularly Liverpool, that the key to this is to break the transmission. If we can break the transmission, our numbers will decline, and maybe we'll have Tier 1 ahead of Christmas. During this lockdown, our schools continue to operate, providing vital education for our children, and I thank all the staff involved, support staff, teachers, governors, head teachers, and so many more, working to educate this borough's next generation, which is a key priority of this administration, of course. The attendance in our schools are encouraging, and we send a very clear message to our teachers and our schools. Thank you so much for what you are doing. And thank you to all the staff of Telford and Wrekin Council too. They have been deployed into many roles, Mr. Speaker, roles that they would never had anticipated when they first joined this council, working 7 days a week to support our communities. Mr. Speaker, let me say this to the staff of Telford and Wrekin Council and for public sector services more generally. This council, this administration won't clap you on a Thursday and not give you a pay rise at the first available opportunity. And my promise to you is that this council will work very hard indeed to try and persuade the government to give you the pay rise that you deserve. For me, it's about hypocrisy, Mr. Speaker. How can you clap them on a Thursday but make them pay on a Friday? And it's about time this government woke up to that fact. And finally, Mr. Speaker, and very briefly, I would like to pay tribute to the departing Leader of the Opposition, Councillor Andrew Eade, who was the Leader of the Opposition at the last council meeting, and welcome and congratulate Councillor N A Dugmore on taking up that position. I look forward to a constructive working relationship with him. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Leader. Could I invite the Mayor, Amrit Jawar, now to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I reach halfway through my term as a mayor, it has looked very different due to the current COVID-19 restrictions. I would like to thank all those who have donated to the charity appeals so far this year, which is supporting the Jane Sargent Foundation and Telford Mind. Members will have received the list of engagements in advance of the meeting tonight. I have continued to support the community as and when restrictions have allowed, and have attended a number of special events which I would like to highlight. VJ celebration at Chelsea Garden in Telford Town Park on 15th of August. Iron Bridge lighting scheme launched in 19 September. A royal visit from Princess Royal to mark the naming of the Silver Shadow Bridge on 28th of September. Visit to Iron Bridge Gorge from Dean Harris, the High Sheriff for Shropshire, on the 14th of October. Telford Wrekin Remembrance event to mark Remembrance Sunday and Armistice Day from 8th to 11th of November. I look forward to continuing my year and would like to wish both members and our residents the best for 2021. I wish Merry Christmas to all Telford and Wrekin residents. I know it's not going to be normal Christmas, but have a nice one anyway. Look after yourself, your families and friends, and please stay safe and well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Public questions. I am told that there are no public questions have been received, so I move on to Cabinet decisions made since the last meeting of the Council, and I invite any questions of clarification from members on key decisions marked K on the report for item 8. Are there any questions or clarifications sought? I can't see anybody indicating. So I move on to 9. Councillors' questions. All right, I will invite each councillor to ask their questions as tabled of the appropriate cabinet member, and you'll see the total time is 30 minutes, question 2 minutes, answer 2 minutes, supplementary question 2 minutes, answer 2 minutes, and we'll try and keep that to the time limited. So I have Councillor Peter Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Parking around schools in Newport is becoming a big safety issue for many. Enforcement officers attend occasionally, but with little effect. The time has come for more drastic action. The safety of children and residents must be a priority. Would the council consider a form of traffic management order to temporarily restrict any cars from parking close to or within 100 to 200 metres of a school?
Right, thank you. Councillor Richard Overton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Councillor Scott, for your question and the points contained within it. Since 2018, Telford Wrekin Councils invested over 850,000 to safety schemes outside our schools across the borough. I'm delighted, as the leader mentioned in his speech, to confirm a further 250,000 has been invested this financial year, making our total investment over 1.1 million. These schemes have been developed from significant engagement with our schools, which has seen our road safety education team meet with each school to understand their individual concerns to ensure schemes taken forward are tailored to the specific needs in each community. Solutions to prevent inconsiderate parking and improve the provision of safe parking around schools has and continues to be delivered as part of this programme. Our focus remains on road safety, education and promoting the use of sustainable modes of transport to school that reduces reliance on cars as first choice. Reducing or eliminating car usage, particularly for school travel, supports our climate change commitments and avoids the conflicts of closing roads or implementing other restrictions in locations that has the potential to displace current issues outside the school gate and give rise to other road safety concerns. Members will be aware of our extensive road safety education programme, where we work with schools to promote active forms of travel and encourage pupils and their parents to walk and cycle to school in a safe way. In addition to this, this works alongside our 1.1 million school safety programme. We are investing 2.4 million into sustainable transport over the coming years to further enhance cycling, walking and public transport offer and encourage these modes to be the preferential choice when travelling to and from school. With regards to enforcement, our neighbourhood enforcement officers adopt a firm yet fair approach in supporting positive parking at schools. Officers spend time at schools across the borough and give advice and guidance to those dropping off and picking up their school children. When our officers are on site, they do generally see a high level of compliance in relation to parking. However, those parking on double yellow lines or parking inconsiderate will be provided with advice or receive a penalty charge notice. Our enforcement officers work closely with West Mercia Police on school parking to ensure a collective approach in managing this important issue. Alongside the investment packages outlined and complemented with an increase in the number of our enforcement officers, I would encourage ward members, in consultation with town and parish councils, to engage with our new community action team package to develop a local approach to such enforcement to ensure enforcement officers are tackling the local priorities in these communities.
Right, thank you for that. Councillor Scott, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do, and thank you for the response. I appreciate it. It's good to know the council are looking at this seriously, because I do understand that one size doesn't fit all for every school. The follow-up question really is about the enforcement team. Really, we don't get them across to Newport very often for the schools. They do a fine job in the high street and our car park. Are there any plans to increase the number of the enforcement team? Because currently, I don't feel that they are able to cover everything throughout the borough, and if there were an increase, then we may see more at the schools.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I mentioned that in the last point. We are promoting the community action teams, which is about not just neighbourhood services and similar to the old PEP mechanism, but also enforcement officers where parish and town councils, I know some are brought into the ICM currently, where they can switch to this model of funding and having a dedicated officer to patrol their area either for a couple of days a week or for the whole week. So we are encouraging parish and town councils to take that up. So hopefully Newport Town Council will look at their current ICM model and see if they can transfer it to a cap provision.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, thank you both. Councillor Mark Boylan, you have a question?
Yes, please. I'm asking Councillor David Wright, the Cabinet Member for Economy, Housing, Transport and Infrastructure. Since the formation of Telford over 50 years ago, Telford has been a magnet for inward and foreign direct investment from around the world and across Europe. The companies that have come to Telford and grown in Telford have in turn attracted families to live and work in our town. With the prospect of a no-deal trade agreement with Europe, what impact does the Cabinet Member feel this would have for residents who live in the borough, travel to the borough for work, those who employ residents, and large and small businesses?
Right, thank you. Councillor David Wright.
Well, can I thank Councillor Boylan for his question. No deal will obviously mean an immediate implementation of WTO rules, and these rules cover trading goods only, and there's no provision for services. It's certain, and you'll have seen some of the advertisements on the television, that all exported goods will have tariffs placed on them, increasing prices and reducing competitiveness if we don't get a proper deal. Clearly, we're going to have new customs arrangements anyway, whatever happens, because goods will be transferring between the UK and the EU. I think it's important to note that Telford businesses export a higher proportion of their goods to the EU than their counterparts in pretty much any other town or city in the UK. 2/3 of our exports from Telford companies are to EU countries. So securing a trade deal is absolutely essential for us in terms of the livelihoods of local people and the sustainability of local businesses. We really do need a trade deal covering goods and services. We'll have, I believe, significant damage to the local economy if that's not secured. Having said that, I know that Telford companies are resilient and we will support them whatever the outcome.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Boylan, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, please, Speaker. Thank you for that, David. Can the Cabinet member confirm that Telford Wrekin Council will continue to deploy a ruthless business winning and business supporting agenda to bring companies to our borough, keep them here and help them grow across all sectors, business types and sizes, including agricultural businesses?
Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Absolutely. The Council's Enterprise Telford Business Support Team signposts people to support already. I'd encourage businesses who are in our locality or want to move here to get in touch with the council. We can put you on track to secure grant support if it's available. We can help you with innovation and growth. We have a thriving business board that works very closely with a range of partners. We also work closely with DIT and the Chamber of Commerce to help businesses enter overseas markets and develop their export sales. As I've said, it's crucially important that we get a trade deal in the next few days. It's very important in terms of the wealth of our local economy, the protection of our businesses and the living standards of our residents. So I welcome the fact that Councillor Boylan's raised this important issue today. This is a factor that sits alongside COVID as being of significant national importance, and it's very much clear that we should, as a council, continue to support local businesses who are here already and those who want to come to Telford. We have a good record of attracting businesses from right across the world to Telford. We're one of the best towns in the country in terms of inward investment, and I want that to continue.
Okay, thank you both. Councillor Kelly Middleton, you have a question for our Deputy Leader?
I do, thank you, Mr. Speaker. White Ribbon Day was yesterday. I know Telford has been a White Ribbon town since 2011, when it was first awarded this status by White Ribbon UK. This recognises Telford and Wrekin Council's ongoing commitment to raising awareness of and tackling the issue of domestic abuse, and in the case of our White Ribbon commitment, speaking out about violence against women. Could Councillor Overton tell me what the action the Council has been taking to raise awareness of our White Ribbon commitment and to involve our partners during the past few weeks?
Councillor Overton. You're muted. You're still, that's it, thank you.
It's all right, my mouse is broke. Thank you, Kelly. The White Ribbon Town is an award for councils wishing to demonstrate their commitment to the aims of the White Ribbon campaign. The campaign aims to raise awareness and understanding of domestic abuse and the services that are provided in order to reduce the incidence of domestic abuse and to provide the local community with increased support and understanding of the issue. The campaign centres on men wearing a white ribbon to positively promote that domestic abuse should not be tolerated and positively challenged. Raising awareness is said to play a huge part in changing the cultural and social norms, which is recognised as being highly influential in shaping individual behaviour. Local authorities working directly in the community are ideally placed to raise awareness and therefore save lives, increase the safety of women and children, and enable friends and families to support their loved ones. We hold our annual White Ribbon event on or around the 25th of November, the International Day of Celebration. We'll celebrate the 7th year of being a White Ribbon accredited town. This year we're running a virtual event due to COVID by running a social media campaign alongside developing a virtual selfie board and questions to film men speaking about domestic abuse. This has run on both Twitter and Facebook, for which we've created a specific page. This has proved very successful last year, which achieved nearly 10,000 views from people pledging following having seen the short film clips. As a result of our virtual selfie board, the number of champions and ambassadors has increased. We started virtual postings on the 20th of October to include 16 days of action that started on the 9th of November, and we are posting every day up until yesterday, including weekends. We've been working with local partner organisations to feed into the campaign and to help promote it. These include AFC Telford United, Shrewsbury Town Football Club, Telford Aftercare Team, A Better Tomorrow, Shropshire Fire and Rescue, SAT, Shropshire Domestic Abuse, West Mercia Police, Recharge, Stay, Wrekin Housing Group, West Midlands Ambulance Service, Citizens Advice, Horsa Housing, Telford Town Centre, Bright Star Boxing and the NFU. There were 2 podcasts and 5 lived experience stories, including one for a male victim. The white ribbon flag is being flown at Addenbrook House this week, and Southwater 1 and Telford Town Centre were lit up to mark White Ribbon Day yesterday. And our social media interactions on Facebook have received nearly 50,000 interactions.
Right, thank you. Councillor Middleton, do you have a supplementary question?
I do not, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We move on. Councillor Chris Turley will ask a question of the council leader, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to ask the following question to our leader, in that I have received so many messages from residents in my ward since the start of this pandemic, thanking Telford and Wrekin Council for the fantastic support they have given to residents during these difficult times. I know that this authority has also been working with local groups, charities and businesses and its volunteer base to assist vulnerable residents, together with providing a community support line to help those most in need. However, I am sure there has been so much that has been gone unnoticed by everyone, and would be grateful if the leader could inform me what the support the council has undertaken from March 2020, including the current lockdown.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Turley. And firstly, can I start with thanking and paying tribute to our residents who have absolutely rallied around their communities and followed the advice of the vast majority of people, following the rules and working to get our numbers right down. And it's really important to highlight that we have been consistently well below the national and regional averages. It's only been sort of 2 or 3 weeks before the second lockdown, when the numbers were increasing significantly right across the country, that our numbers started to rise. And today we've published figures that show an over 20% reduction in our COVID numbers. The clear work of the community has been fantastic. But Councillor Turley also mentions quite rightly the work that we've done with our community partners and our public sector organisations and private sector organisations. I pay tribute to those. Some of the highlights are that as a council, we have had direct support, as in we have spoken to 1 in 5 households over the last few months, and that conversation has been converted into direct support, including food and shopping and delivering medication, taking residents' dogs for a walk, crisis payments. We've made safe and well contact calls to all those people who have asked for it, who were asked to shield by the NHS. 1,000 keep in touch calls made every single week to vulnerable residents. We've wrote to 78,000 households twice with information about the rules and the support that's been available. We delivered, while the government dithered, and right at the start of this pandemic, 52,000 free school meals to the doorsteps of some of the most vulnerable children in this borough, because the government couldn't get its act together. We've recruited 1,147 volunteers, and we've engaged those fantastic volunteers to help keep our communities and residents safe and well supported. We've worked with over 80 community groups to provide support to the most vulnerable. We've raised money to deliver 190 Kindle Kindness tablets to the Princess Royal Hospital, care homes, and many more. We intervened and invested money to deliver 250,000 pieces of PPE equipment delivered to the residential care sector when the government were divvying, Mr. Speaker. We've provided advice and assistance to 5,100 businesses, including help and support navigating the government support package. We've been one of the quickest councils in the country, Mr. Speaker, to process our grants to businesses. £28.5 million paid out to businesses, while other councils, frankly, Mr. Speaker, lagged behind. We've got an additional £1.4 million discretionary business grant scheme, and we are already at pace delivering the current scheme. All businesses have been written to twice to talk about the support that's available. We've provided £13 million in business rate relief, and we've to borough businesses. We've helped and been flexible with our own borough tenants. We before the government introduced the eviction ban, Mr. Speaker, we insisted that there was an eviction ban for our new place tenants, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have done everything that we can to support our residents, our communities, our businesses, and that was the direction from government, to do everything you can to support businesses, residents and the community groups. We've done that, and what have the government done in return? Yesterday, Mr. Speaker, they've absolutely shafted us in terms of our funding, and are now instructing us to raise council tax by 5%. What a kick in the teeth, Mr. Speaker.
All right. Thank you. Councillor Turley, do you have a supplementary?
I do not have a supplementary, but I'd just like to thank the leader for her response. Very much appreciated.
All right, thank you both. Councillor Raj Mehta, you ask a question of Councillor David Wright.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the Cabinet member with responsibilities for strategic planning agree with me that planning reforms proposed by the government will lead to remote standardised and formula-based decisions, making lead vital? And in that context, we should call on the government to abandon its existing proposals and ensure that the principle of local decision making is central to the whole planning process.
Thank you. Councillor David Wright.
Well, yes, I do agree that the planning reforms are wrong. They will lead to remote, standardised and formula-based decision making, as Councillor Mehta quite rightly says. The government are currently consulting on changes to the system in 2 consultation documents. Firstly, changes to the current planning system consultation, and secondly, the Planning for the Future white paper. Taken as a whole, the proposals amount to a complete overhaul of many areas of planning, a centralised approach to housing needs calculation, standardised systems and standards, as well as a loss of local control over parts of the planning application process. Now, put simply, this is an appalling downgrade of local planning decision making if it goes ahead. It's interesting that Conservative councillors on the council are very vocal on planning matters when it comes to applications, and quite rightly very often in terms of local democracy, but they're very silent on this, and this is a damaging proposal that impacts on local decision making. It takes local decision making away from the plans board and planning committees right across the country. It identifies potentially areas for growth in local plans, and basically specified forms of development would basically automatically be granted permission in growth areas. So it takes control away from local councillors, it takes control away from local elected representatives, and therefore takes control away from local people.
All right, thank you. Councillor Mehta, do you have a supplementary question?
No, Mr. Speaker, no, that's fine, thank you.
All right, thank you very much, both of you. Councillor Nigel Dugmore, you have a question to the Cabinet member Ray Evans. Councillor Ray Evans.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. To reduce the burden of having to set a budget retaining 6 months precept in reserve, would Telford Wrekin Council reimburse parish and town councils quarterly as opposed to every 6 months as at present?
That's the question. Councillor Ray Evans, are you there?
I am, yes, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Dugmore, for the question. This council rightly is proud of the relationship that it's built with its valued partners, our town and parish councils. We therefore already pay their precepts in advance. The first payment is made in April and covers in advance the first 6 months of the year. Therefore, it follows the second payment, which is made in November, covers the last 6 months of the year in advance. Councillor Dugmore, if I understand your question correctly, paying town and parish councils on a quarterly basis would therefore result in them having less flexibility and less money in their bank accounts at any one time than they currently have. However, if I misunderstood your question or there's a specific situation that you have in mind, please do speak to me outside the meeting. I would also remind you that we have an active and very productive town and parish council charter group where members are encouraged to raise issues of this nature for consideration. Hope that helps.
Partially. The thing is my supplementary question is of course that if parish councils don't need to keep as much reserves, well then the pressure on them to set increased parish council precepts is reduced, and therefore it could be it could be a choice from individual parish councils as to whether or not they wanted to pursue that. I just think it would help. It would indicate that Telford Wrekin Council was actually happy in helping the parish councils in their in setting their budgets. Do you agree with that?
What I say to you is I don't understand your question in that case, because we already pay them in advance.
Mm-hmm.
We already pay them in advance, and is that not what you're asking for?
Can I ask that we don't get into a debate? Can you deal with this outside the meeting? We're running out of time and I've got 2 more questions. So I'm going to move on to Councillor Stephen Bentley, who's got a question for our leader. Thank you. Councillor Bentley? 5, 4, 3. No. All right. Councillor Nigel Dugmore, you have a question for Councillor David Wright.
Yes, certainly. What is a reasonable timescale for roads on new developments to be adopted by Telford Wrekin Council?
Councillor Wright.
Well, can I thank Nigel for the question and welcome him as the leader has to his post.
Thank you.
In terms of adoption, this is dependent, as he will know, on a number of factors: the size of development, the scope of the highway network, the provision of services in the roadway. I acknowledge that we've had difficulties on a number of sites across the borough in terms of getting developers to get on with roadway completion. It needs to be emphasised that we have completely reformed our processes since 2017, and all data is showing that we are adopting roads faster than ever and getting much better value and longer maintenance life due to our new design guidance and code. I am conscious that this is an important issue. It's an important issue in wards right across the borough, and clearly as part of the review of the local plan and the issues and options paper, this is an issue we ought to be studying in greater detail and talking to developers about as well, and using our approach both as a carrot and a stick to ensure that roadways are put in as quickly as possible for residents.
Thank you. Councillor Dugmore, do you have a supplementary?
Yeah, well, yes, thank you, Chair. I mean, I've got roads in my ward that have been waiting 20 years, 15 years and 10 years, which I don't believe is reasonable. Are there any plans to actually start looking into these historic cases and actually start working on these ones that have been waiting decades to get to an adoptable standard?
Well, Councillor Dugmore, no, it's not reasonable if people have been waiting that long, and I'd like to know what the circumstances are around those specific sites genuinely. And so if you send me some further details, I will, of course, look into that. This has been an issue that's been raised by a number of members across the borough with me. It is difficult sometimes when developers have got long roadways, long tracts of drainage and service provision to put in. It's important that we recognise that there are pressures on developers. We don't want them to be surfacing roads and then having them smashed up by contractor vehicles. It's a balance, but no, residents shouldn't be having to wait the kind of lengths of time that he's talking about. So if he's got specific cases, of course I will look at that.
All right, yeah. Thank you both.
Thank you.
The fact that we haven't been able to take the question from Stephen Bentley, can I suggest that there's a written reply so it's not left out? Yeah.
It's not required.
Oh, you're there.
The silence was deafening and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I did. Carry on then, we've got 3 minutes. Councillor Bentley, would you like to ask your question of the leader?
No, I've just withdrawn it.
Oh, you've withdrawn it. Oh, lovely.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't make that clear.
No, it's clear now. Thank you.
Well,
move on to item 10, recommendations from Cabinet. It's 10A is the LGA response and recovery panel. And I invite Councillor Sean Davis to propose the recommendation.
Propose, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, seconder?
I'll second that, Mr. Speaker.
All right. Are there any comments, debate? All right. No, I've got no indication. All right, we'll do assent, dissent. Is there any dissent that the recommendations be accepted? None. Then I rule it is assent. Thank you. 10B, the council plan. Invite Councillor Sean Davis to propose.
Propose that.
The recommendation, that is. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Are there any comments? No comments. Is there any dissent? Then I rule that it is approved. Thank you. 10C, Financial Management Report. I invite Councillor Ray Evans to propose the recommendation.
Propose, Mr. Speaker.
Is there a seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Are there any debate? Any questions, comments? Is there any dissent that it be approved? No dissent, then it is approved. 10D, Councillor Carolyn Healy, you are to leave the meeting because you've declared an interest.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I invite Councillor David Wright to propose the recommendations on Get Building Fund Stronger Communities, New College, Wellington. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I propose, and in doing so, I should place on record that I represent the local authority on the LEP.
Very good, thank you. Is there a seconder?
I'll second that.
Right. Is there any comment, debate? I can see no indication. Right. Is there any dissent? Then the recommendations are approved. Thank you. Can we invite Councillor Carolyn Healy to return to the meeting, please?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, just dealing with that now.
All right, thank you. I'll wait just a second out of courtesy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yep. All right, thank you. 10E, Housing Investment Programme business case. I invite Councillor David Wright to propose the recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I propose the recommendation. This is a report on wide principles of housing investment in New Place. It doesn't cover detailed project decision making. I should declare that I'm a member of St George's and Prisley Parish Council, and we're now in a negotiation with Telford Wrekin on the Gower project, so I won't make any contribution in relation to that project now or in the future, but I move the general principle of the recommendations in the report.
I'll second that, Mr. Speaker, and take any questions that needs answers.
Okay, is there any comments, questions? Yeah, Councillor Bentley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've got a couple of questions or comments. Page 9 of the report, it indicates that Lovell are the preferred construction contractor for all current and proposed future sites. Is there a contingency plan should we have a Carillion type scenario happen here in Telford?
That's a question to David Wright. Councillor David Wright, yes.
Mr. Speaker, Lovell are our current contract provider. They were contracted with us through a competitive process in relation to a number of previous schemes and existing schemes. We will be testing the market as we move forward on these projects as they are developed. So we will be securing contractors and we'll be testing the market to ensure we're getting best value for money. The latest project that they secured on is Donington Wood Way, which they have in partnership with New Place and Wrekin Housing Group. I know that local members down there have welcomed that brownfield development down there, but we will be testing the market, Councillor Bentley, as we move forward.
All right, thank you. Can I invite Councillor Ian Fletcher?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a few questions for Councillor David Wright or the Councillor Lee Carter, as it seems there are two names on this this item. Firstly, I note that so far that they've produced 466 homes, but only 11.8% of them are actually affordable. I think under the our current local plan for properties within Telford, we're supposed to go for 20% affordable houses. Why is a New Place, which is run and owned by the council, not complying with these? That's the first question. Second question was in paragraph 5.1, it shows that they're going to be loaning £112.4 million and getting an income of about £4 million a year. But it mentions that it comes under the question of the money that the council are lending to New Place is deemed to be state aid. I thought that under EU rules we weren't allowed to give state aid. Why is the council breaching the rules? And finally, in the pipeline, I noticed that there are 320 proposed homes there. None of them have gone through the planning process. If by any chance the planning agreement isn't around given for those properties, what contingency plans, alternative plans have you got for utilising the funds? Thank you.
Right, thank you. Councillor Wright.
In relation to the affordable housing numbers, clearly one of the factors here is creating a sustainable portfolio at the front end of the development of a project like New Place. So our objective as we entered the market was to ensure that we had a wide range of general needs accommodation. As you can see from the development of the programme, we are now building more affordable homes. We're putting in more adapted and adaptable homes, and we're supporting people with a variety of needs. Councillor Fletcher raises the point about increasing the number of affordable homes within the programme. Well, clearly that needs to be an objective moving forward, but you do have to have a business base to operate from and a sustainable base. I'm interested to hear that he's now a convert to New Place. Obviously, the Conservative group have opposed this project on numerous occasions, and they wanted us to sell all of these assets. So unfortunately for him, we are going to continue to run this project and make sure it's sustainable in the long term. He may not like that, but that's the way it goes. In terms of compliance, financing the vehicle, we meet all the requirements laid out in legislation in terms of moving this scheme forward. And finally, in relation to the development of sites, clearly, as I've said, these are in principle sites that we are exploring. They have to go through the process in terms of detail on every application. And clearly, we would have a listing of alternative sites as we move forward if one or two drop out of the process. But I would hope, certainly, that we would be in a position to deliver, if not all, most of these sites.
Right, thank you. Councillor Bentley, you have your hand, is it up again or still up from last time? Councillor Bentley?
No, I've taken the hand down.
Oh, okay, well, it's still up.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'll take it down then, Arnold.
All right, thank you. No more comments listed. Do I take it that is there any dissent when it comes to a vote? Then I assume assent, and that is accepted. Thank you. Moving on to item 11, recommendations from boards and committees. I'd like to invite Councillor Hilda Rhodes, Chair of the Licensing Committee, to discuss the statement of licensing policy. Councillor Rhodes. I can't see you and I can't hear you. No, Councillor Chris Turley, would you like to move as, I believe, Vice Chair?
We'll move, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Are there any comment, debate? I see no hands raised.
Mr. Speaker, we do need a second.
Oh, yes, of course you do, yes. Would somebody like to second the motion?
I'll second it.
It's seconded, thank you. Is there any dissent? Oh, I've got Councillor Stephen Reynolds. No, it's gone.
I was going to say I would second it, but Shirley's done it.
Okay, ahead of you as usual, thank you. So, is there any dissent? No? Then I declare assent. Sorry, Shirley. We move on to notices of motion. All right, Councillor Nigel Dugmore will move the motion. I've got them here somewhere. All right, would you like to carry on? Councillor Dugmore? We seem to be losing people. Councillor Dugmore, are you there?
Mr. Speaker, he appears to be otherwise engaged at the moment.
I had his.
Oh, he's free now, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, Councillor Dugmore, your motion, please.
Yeah, apologies, Mr. Speaker. Right, Mr. Speaker, I fully understand if there is a sense of déjà vu with regards to this motion, insofar that it reiterates our continuing opposition to any merging of Telford and Wrekin Council with Shropshire Council. Having to repeat this mantra wouldn't be necessary if people would only accept our stated position. Perhaps the message will get through this time. Please be assured that this is our position on the matter. We do not think that a merged unitary authority is in the best interest of Telford and Wrekin residents. Mr. Speaker, the government's consultation paper proposes to introduce unitary authorities across the country. As we have seen here in Telford and Wrekin, this model of local government works. Take note, it's the model of the local government, not necessarily the policies that work. Not only are single-tier authorities more efficient, but they are also more democratically accountable to residents. I would be very surprised if any member, regardless of political persuasion, would not agree and prefer to go back to the old system of multiple overlapping layers of local government. While I'm sure that our councillor colleagues in, for example, Newcastle-under-Lyme would lament the changes, no one can ignore the efficiencies and effectiveness that unitary authorities bring. They also encourage the opportunities to work with neighbouring authorities, which reduce administration costs without a loss of political control. With this council, we have seen some joint working, e.g. in the fostering service, the pension scheme, and also police and fire services. These arrangements could be expanded to further reduce costs and avoid duplication of administration, which should have no impact on democracy or political control. Mr. Speaker, rolling out unitary authorities across the country will enable everyone to share the benefits. Locally, due to geographical size and the danger of residents feeling remote and unrepresented, as we have seen in some parts of the county, I don't support the merging with Shropshire. With the economic legacy of the pandemic with us for many years to come, it makes sense to reduce costs that has minimal impact on the population. Fewer tiers of local government improves efficiency, reduces costs, and improves democratic accountability. What's not to like? I urge everybody to support the motion.
Okay, thank you. I invite Councillor Adrian Lawrence to second.
Thank you, Speaker. I'd obviously like to second this motion, and in doing so, I've got a few points to make. The first is we've had a great success in Telford and Wrekin with our unitary. We've always disagreed about policy directions, but I think the concept of a holistic policy which pulls together housing, social care, planning and economic measures is only really possible effectively within the unitary model. So I think it has been a great success. We're in a time now of national crisis, and really that duplication between districts, and county councils, it doesn't make sense to me anymore. So the unitary model is a good one to be rolled out. As Nigel said, though, we disagree with merging unitaries within Shropshire. There's real differences between our authorities at the moment. There's a sense of place, and it's really important that local democracy is respected. And my feeling is that councils work best when they reflect where their residents live and work, and the life experiences are aligned with the boundaries of the council. Nigel is right, though, is that there needs to be more efficiencies found, but I don't see that needs to come with a merger of this authority with Shropshire. That efficiency could be found by working with other government agencies, the police, the NHS, or other organisations to find savings. But the essence for me is retention of democratic control. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Right, thank you. We've had notice of an amendment, so I now ask Councillor Ray Evans to propose her amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I start by thanking Councillors Dugmore and Lawrence for suggesting this motion, the essence of which is, of course, very welcome. We have often spoken in this chamber about our mutual desire for cooperation between the three groups. We believe that this is now possible, and it's in that spirit that we venture this friendly amendment to your proposed motion. Members will not be surprised to hear that we cannot declare support for the government's consideration of the introduction of unitary authorities across the country. However, this amendment does recognise personal choice, and indeed that some may wish to do so. Councillors, there is 40 years of academic research to indicate that increasing a council size is no guarantee of improvements in performance, cost or efficiency. The research also consistently shows that making a council bigger has a negative effect on local democracy, and indeed I think Councillor Lawrence said that as well. There can be no doubt that this government would
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, can you give it me?
Yeah.
Give me the point of order.
The member, Councillor Ray, is speaking on the amendment and motion, but he hasn't actually given us the wording of the motion, so we don't know what she is talking about.
Okay,
I think most members would like to know what her amendment is before she starts talking about it.
Right.
Thank you.
Councillor Evans, could you read out the amendment, please?
Of course, and I think that's a fair point. Thank you, Ian. I hadn't realised you couldn't see it. This council acknowledges that some may wish to support the government's consideration of introducing unitary authorities across the country. However, in line with previous motions which received unanimous support across this local authority, this council undertakes to oppose any move to merge Telford and Wrekin Council and Shropshire Council into one unitary authority, and calls upon both our MPs to actively support us in this endeavour.
Okay, thank you. Could you continue? I believe you have 3 minutes.
Okay. There can be no doubt that this government would like to see greater consolidation, either by merging district authorities or, more dangerously for us, existing smaller unitary authorities together within a county. So councillors should be in no doubt that whilst we might not be in the front line of any merger, we would almost certainly be in the second line of attack. The way local authorities are defined is too important to be decided by financial affairs alone or by sustained periods of austerity. Creating enormous all-purpose authorities would dilute the voice of our residents. In short, the proposal for creating large councils will take the local out of local government. A merger with Shropshire, creating a single authority, would not only lead to a rise in our council tax, more importantly, it would almost certainly result in the distinctive character and needs of Telford and indeed Shropshire's communities being lost in some remote bureaucracy. We would also lose the close and important links we have with the communities we represent. And all this in jeopardy when it's not even clear that the further consolidation would improve resilience, accountability, or financial stability. The current COVID crisis has highlighted the value of local residents, local responses. And whether you're talking about supporting residents, rough sleeping, getting business grants to where they need to be, or providing essential services to our community, this council has delivered comprehensively and at speed because we know our residents and our businesses.
Would you wind up, please?
Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I believe that this council is of one mind with the council that Telford and Wrekin should not be merged with Shropshire now or in the future. I hope that we can all vote for the amended motion, which cuts to the point, seeks to ensure that we have greater success in assuring we achieve our common goal, preserving a unitary entity, and this is best achieved by strengthening our call by asking our elected MPs to support us in this endeavour.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Councillor Angela McClements, do you wish to second?
Yeah, I second the motion, Mr. Speaker, and reserve the right to speak at the end of the debate.
Right, and Councillor Dugmore gets the right of reply at the end of the debate as well. Okay, are there any other comments? I see no hands raised. Any comments? No. Councillor McClements, do you wish to exercise your...
Okay, I didn't expect to come in so soon, but anyway, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I fully support the amendment. I think the thrust of both motions are against merger of Telford and Wrekin Council and Shropshire Council. However, this amended motion also recognises that the Conservative group support the concept of the government's stance of super unitary authorities across the country, hence the acknowledgement of the words some may wish to support in our amendment. I think that's really important. But what does that really mean? I think Councillor Ray Evans is absolutely right that central government would like to see greater consolidation, and that in essence means that Telford and Wrekin and Shropshire Council brought together under one umbrella and one authority. You know, and let's be frank about this, it would be an absolute disaster for Telford and Wrekin. We know that, and more importantly, also residents are telling us that. You know, it would have a detrimental impact on inward investment and regeneration of our borough. We'd have no clear democratic voice for the people of Telford and Wrekin to promote and champion our borough. We would have no effective voice to support and fight and keep fighting for the services of our local hospital, the PRH. And it could mean privatisation or closure of our leisure centres and library closures. And also it inevitably could mean car parking charges introduced across our local high streets. Telford's loss would be Shropshire's gain. Our amendment also calls on both of our MPs to actively, and we mean actively, support us against merger under these new proposals for super councils. We need them to stand up for Telford and Wrekin on the key issues that affect us. We got Daniel Kadinti and his friends shouting loudly up the road in Shropshire that we should merge. So that's why it's really important that we shout more loudly and win one voice. And I'm really pleased that the Conservatives are going to beat us on that. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Councillor Dugmore. You have the... Sorry, I can't turn this bloody thing on. Sorry, my apologies.
Is that your pizza ready or something?
I wish. You have the right to reply, and then we will, assuming there are no more comments, we will then put the amended motion to the vote, and then it'll either fall or will become the substantive. So over to you, Councillor Dugmore.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, when is an amendment not an amendment? God, honestly, for crying out loud, it would absolutely kill the opposition, the other groups, or should I say our opposition groups, to actually agree with us on anything. And basically, it seems like a pointless exercise, this amendment. It really is. I mean, we keep hearing that how fantastic, and you're, singing the praises of Telford and Wrekin as a unitary authority, yet it would appear that you don't really agree with it. So I'm a bit confused as to where exactly you're coming from. Why there seems to be this presumption that there's going to be an increase in size of unitary authorities, I really don't know. I mean, basically, the whole point is to make sure, and as I said in my opening speech, to try and make things as democratic as possible by reducing the number of tiers, which is what we've done here. None of us want to actually merge with Shropshire. We keep saying that, and it seems like the message may actually be getting through, which is good. So quite honestly, I just think it's it's an amendment for amendment's sake, and quite honestly, I don't see the point of it. As far as whether or not I'll support it or vote against it, to be perfectly honest, because it's a non-amendment, I think I will just abstain.
Right. Thank you. We now move to the vote. Can I ask the Stacey, our officer, do we call out names or do we do an assent dissent?
Mr. Speaker, this does need to be a roll call. Yes. Sorry, I couldn't get my words out, Mr. Speaker. I do apologise.
Can you do the roll call then, please?
Yes. Councillor Bentley.
Following my leader's remarks, abstain.
Councillor Bustell.
4.
Boylan.
4.
Councillor Burford.
4.
Burrell.
Abstain.
Again.
Councillor.
Can't hear.
Yes, can't hear you.
Stacey, could you repeat? We're having difficulties hearing you.
Councillor Kalia.
4.
She's not here.
Yeah, she is.
Councillor Eric Carter.
Well, following on from what colleagues have said, I won't make any more comment. I'll just say abstain.
Abstain, thank you.
That's the camera.
Councillor Lee Carter.
You got to speak in a moment.
Councillor Lee Carter.
You can use that to unmute. Just press the button.
You said 4.
Councillor Lee Carter, because of the background noise, can we just confirm you said 4?
I did say 4, yes.
Thank you, Councillor Carter.
Councillor Cook.
4.
Councillor Davis.
4.
Councillor Dugmore.
Abstain.
Missed the last one.
Councillor
Abstain.
You're muted.
Sooner we get back to face, the better.
Perhaps we could come back to Councillor Eade, Mr. Speaker.
No, I can hear that. What I didn't hear was my name being called. Certainly not clearly. Anyway, I'll abstain.
Councillor Arnold England.
4.
Councillor Nathan England.
4.
Councillor Evans.
4.
Councillor Ian Fletcher.
Abstain.
Councillor Veronica Fletcher.
Abstain.
Councillor Greenaway.
Abstain.
Councillor Healy.
4.
Councillor Holt.
4.
Councillor Hoskins.
That was Councillor Hoskins.
I can hear you now. Abstain.
Councillor Yanker.
4.
Councillor Dewar.
4.
4.
Councillor Lavery.
4.
Councillor Lawrence.
Abstain.
Councillor Goodrich.
4.
Clements.
4.
Councillor Meta.
Of course, 4.
Councillor Middleton.
4.
Councillor Nelson.
Abstain.
Councillor Offland.
She sent her apologies.
Oh, my apologies. Councillor Overton.
4.
Councillor Gilly Reynolds.
4.
Councillor Shirley Reynolds.
4.
Councillor Steve Reynolds.
4.
Councillor Rhodes.
Councillor Rhodes, I think you may be muted again.
Councillor Rhodes.
4.
Thank you.
Councillor Sahota. Councillor Sahota.
4.
Councillor Scott.
4.
Councillor Seymour.
Abstain.
Charles Smith.
4.
Councillor Karen Tomlinson.
4.
Councillor Bill Tomlinson.
Councillor Bill Tomlinson.
He's muted.
Sorry, I'm just going to see what's wrong. Won't be a moment.
Mr. Speaker, perhaps we could move on and come back to Councillor Bill Tomlinson.
If you would, please.
Councillor Turley.
4.
Councillor Watling.
4.
Councillor White.
4.
Councillor Wright.
4.
All right, I've just seen a sign that says that Councillor Offland is in the meeting. I understood she sent her apologies. I'm sorry. Could we ask Councillor Offland for her vote?
Councillor Offland.
Mr. Speaker, Councillor Offland has put in the group chat that it's a yes. So unless I hear otherwise, Councillor Offland, we're assuming that's a vote in favour of the amendment.
Okay, we accept that. Yes.
Hello, Speaker. I'm using my wife's PC. I can't unmute mine. I just want to vote for, please.
Okay, thank you. Right. That obviously is unanimous of those who voted for. That now becomes the substantive motion. Do we need to go through the debate again and vote again, or have we covered everything?
Mr. Speaker, could you read out the amended motion, please?
Yes, I can do that. Right. This council acknowledges that some may wish to support the government's consideration of introducing unitary councils across the country. However, in line with previous motions which received unanimous support across this local authority, this council undertakes to oppose any move to merge Telford and Wrekin Council and Shropshire Council into one unitary authority, and calls upon both our MPs to actively support us in this endeavour.
Yeah, which is a bit they wanted to.
Mr. Speaker, if it's any help, I could post it into the meeting chat so that members can see it in front of them.
That would be useful.
Okay, the request of Councillor Dugmore, please do.
That should be showing up now, Mr. Speaker.
I can't see anything. Can any other people see it?
There it is.
Yes,
Yeah,
Mr. Speaker. Bottom right hand corner.
It's not working on yours.
Yes, Chair.
Okay, I'll assume it's there, shall I?
It is there.
It's not there on some computers because I've got it, Councillor, Mr. Speaker, but my wife Veronica, it doesn't appear on hers because her computer hasn't been upgraded.
No, it's
so
mine.
That could be the reason.
And I can't see it on mine.
I've heard it already. I don't need to
I'll
see it.
just move my computer around so she can read it if you like.
Very kind of you. Well, I have it has been read out twice, so I'm going to assume that people know the content. Yes.
Correct.
Let's move on. It's now the substantive motion. Do we have any further debate on this motion? I can see no hands raised. Hang on, let me go to the top of the
Mr.
page.
Speaker, Councillor Evans and Councillor Dugmore are indicating.
Right, I can see Councillor Dugmore. I can't see Councillor Evans. Councillor, which would be the right order, Anthea?
Well, Councillor Evans' hand appears to be down now, so I believe you've only got Councillor Dugmore.
Oh, right.
Please comment.
I was going to say ladies first then, but anyway, okay.
Well, because they've taken it out
Right.
in their amendment.
Mr. Speaker, the creation of Telford and Wrekin Council as a unitary authority ensures that the administration of the borough is close to the residents, ensuring good democratic accountability. We have seen residents in some parts of Shropshire feel remote and disenfranchised by the local authority. We know that unitary authorities work well, and therefore we should support the model being used across the country. Unitary authorities' boundaries should take into account residents' affiliation and sense of belonging, as well as traditional boundaries. Mr. Speaker, accountable local government and reduced cost. It is difficult to see a reasoned argument against. I sort of note the amendment, and as I said before, I don't think that I think it's you know, when is an amendment not an amendment, and that certainly was one. However, I'm prepared to support the amended motion because it does acknowledge the fact that that I and other councillors may support the government's consideration, and I do know that the MPs are you know, are ambivalent on this and don't want to be don't want to get into the minutiae of council business. So therefore, I'm happy to support the amended motion.
Okay, thank you. On that basis, Councillor Evans, do you still wish to comment?
Well, I'm glad that Councillor Dugmore went first, because I was going to say, look, if we can't agree this time, let's get on to a page where we can agree because we're so close. But you've agreed, and I think that's wonderful. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Right, legal advisor Anthea, can we do the assent dissent now?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I think that's fine.
Yes, we have an indication of acceptance. So is there any dissent to the amended motion? There is no dissent, then it is carried, and I thank you for that. I would now ask Councillor Paul Watling to move his motion.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. This year we commemorate 75 years since VJ Day, and we feel that it's fitting that in this year we also highlight the issues raised in this motion. During the Second World War alone, nearly 3 million soldiers from India, Canada, Australia, South Africa, New Zealand and other Commonwealth countries fought for our liberty. The British Armed Forces' most recent policy of recruitment of Commonwealth citizens began in 1998 due to a shortfall in British recruiting. Citizens of the Commonwealth are legally entitled to join the British Armed Forces without any residency rules. Commonwealth countries are currently serving in the UK Armed Forces, with more recruited each year to fill technical and specialist roles. The Army has been the main recipient of Commonwealth recruits. The Royal Navy and Royal Air Force also recruit from Commonwealth countries. The majority of those recruits come from countries in Africa, the Caribbean, Nepal and Fiji in the Pacific. They are also generally concentrated in non-commissioned ranks and within infantry units. That is despite the Conservative government cutting the size of the regular army from a peak of 114,000 in 2010 to a target size of 82,000 by 2020, and privatising recruitment to capita in 2012. However, in July 2018, the Army was 5,600, or about 7%, short of the number of regulars needed, and it's highly unlikely to meet its target headcount for 2020. There's a lack of information pertaining to the numbers of foreign and Commonwealth veterans within Telford and Wrekin, although the needs of these communities may be similar to those of the wider veteran community. It's acknowledged that different ethnic groups and their families have experienced specific issues that need to be considered. Currently, when Commonwealth personnel leave the UK Armed Forces and wish to apply to continue to live in the UK, they face thousands of pounds worth of fees to do so. A service leaver with a partner and 2 children will be presented with a bill of almost £10,000 to stay in the country.
Yeah.
Despite
Let's go into Angela's and Chris's jointly.
Sorry. Despite their years of sacrifice and service on behalf of our nation, the Royal British Legion is currently running a Stop the Service Charge campaign to lobby the government to end this significant financial cost. Foreign national soldiers have the right to remain in the UK after leaving the armed forces if they have served for at least 4 years. However, Visa fees have risen dramatically over the past decade as part of the government's policy to cut immigration. The NHS has also been under an increased obligation since 2017 to check the immigration status of patients and to charge anyone who cannot prove eligibility. This has led to many Commonwealth-born veterans being categorised as illegal. We need to deal with this issue, and this motion, whilst just scratching the surface, will be welcomed by our veteran community. I move, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, thank you. Can you refresh my memory? Has it actually been read out, the motion itself?
It's in the agenda.
I know it's in the agenda, but we normally read them out.
Do we? I'm happy to read it out.
If you would, please.
Yeah. Through this motion, as a council, we recognise the difficulties experienced by Commonwealth veterans in receiving leave to remain in the UK when their service is complete. Many are left with extortionate charges to remain here. Through this motion, we request that the Leader of the Council to write on behalf of the Council to the Prime Minister, Kevin Forster, the Minister for State for Immigration, and Johnny Mercer, the Minister of State for Veterans Affairs, outlining this Council's support for all Commonwealth veterans who have served a minimum of 4 years being granted automatic and free of charge right to remain in the UK, and any veteran who completes 12 years of service to be automatically be granted British citizenship. Further, we request the Leader of the Council to write to Lucy Allen MP and Mark Pritchard MP on behalf of this Council to ask that they press the government for a change in the legislation that affects those that have served diligently and honourably for this country.
Right, thank you. Councillor Turley, you wish to second?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd just like to say, as Chair of the Military Covenant in Telford and Wrekin, and as a veteran myself, I welcome this motion. Our shared experiences as veterans tells us how difficult it is to come from the rigours of service into civilian life. We believe that the current legislation that adds significant problems on our Commonwealth colleagues just to remain in this country are unfair. The burden of service to our country should come with just rewards, and those who serve with honour should therefore be honoured with the same rights as their colleagues. Whilst only a small gesture, we believe that this motion goes some way to show that we, as elected members and as a community, honour our commitment to those brave men and women. Mr. Speaker, I proudly second this motion.
Right, thank you, Councillor Turley. Councillor Bentley, your hand is up.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the spirit of this motion, I don't see any need for a debate.
Thank you very much. Councillor Yankee, your hand.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I'd just like to thank Councillor Watling for raising this really important issue, and it's one that's very close to my heart. I'd just like to tell members a very quick story about an Iraq and Afghan war veteran called Taituzi. Taituzi is a Fijian-born Commonwealth British Army veteran currently recovering from major brain surgery. Despite serving 10 years as a soldier in the British Army and an exemplary record, he's living on donations from the public and his welfare being looked after by a fantastic organisation called Commonwealth Neglected Veterans. Taituzi, like many others in his position, and not just Commonwealth Army veterans, citizens working as doctors, nurses, cleaners and warehouse workers, all key workers leading the fight against coronavirus, have been left not being able to afford to obtain indefinite leave to remain status or British citizenship. Today, he would need to pay £2,389 for each of his family members. That's a total of £9,556 for his entire family, just to secure indefinite leave to remain in Britain. All the while, due to his status, his medical bills have potentially cost upwards of £50,000 looming over him and his family, and a detriment to their mental health. Instead of supporting Taituzi, a man who served this country for 10 years, this government, through its obsession with its hostile environment agenda, has left Taituzi threatened with deportation and a medical bill that would have to be funded through donations or his own pocket. What an absolute disgraceful position for him to be in. As an army veteran myself, I would never have imagined how this is how we treat our brave, honourable brothers and sisters from the Commonwealth that have chose to serve Queen and country. I would never have imagined the appalling hostile environment pursued by this government would have extended its cruel reach to British Army veterans. I am beyond furious. I've personally campaigned and fundraised on Taituzi's behalf, and also had nothing more than a flimsy response from the Veterans Minister, Johnny Mercer, who's promised to sort this out on a number of months ago, and so far nothing has happened. This government needs to get a grip. As far as I'm concerned, Mr. Speaker, if you've worn the uniform and served this country, the very least you deserve are the same benefits and freedoms that we all take for granted. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Does anybody else wish to comment?
In the middle of the council meeting, darling.
All right, then I invite Councillor Paul Watling to reply.
All right, I'll speak to you in a bit.
Just move it and straight to the vote, Speaker.
Yeah. Right, is there any dissent? I see no dissent, then it is approved. Thank you. Now, the next motion, I understand, has been referred to scrutiny. Is that correct? Is that accepted?
That is accepted, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
But I'd like to, if I may, speak to the motion if that's acceptable.
I'm not sure. We don't normally know. Other people are shaking their head negatively.
No, Mr. Speaker, if I may, in order for something to be referred, it does need to be moved so that there's an item to refer. So it will need to be moved and seconded, if that's okay, Mr. Speaker.
Oh, very well then. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, the arguments in favour of school streets are overwhelmingly positive. Healthier, more alert children, a demonstrably safer environment on a school run, and of course, less carbon emissions. Members will recall in 2019 that this council promised to tackle climate change in our borough with an aim to become carbon neutral by 2030. School streets could potentially represent a huge shift in reducing our borough's carbon footprint, using measures under our own considerable statutory powers and making smart use of experimental traffic orders where necessary. This would represent a fantastic opportunity in reducing the borough's carbon footprint on a much wider scale. For those of us who've taken the time to watch this...
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Why is that, Councillor?
It's Councillor Fletcher. As we have people watching from outside, the motion should be read out first so everybody can understand what is being spoken of rather than straightly talking the speak. Can we follow the correct procedure, please?
Okay, thank you for that advice. Most welcome. Do you want to read it out, Councillor Janke, or shall I?
Mr. Speaker, just for clarity, this is a motion that is already on the agenda. That's been published 5 days in advance, publicly available.
Oh, so you're saying Councillor Ian Fletcher is out of order?
I would never deign to say that, Councillor England. I'm simply saying it is publicly available because it was published in advance.
And it is being referred. Shall we allow Councillor Janke to...
Point of order. You made Councillor Watling read out his motion. Surely Councillor Janke should read out his as well. Not one way for different people.
The impression I'm getting, Councillor Fletcher, the advice I'm receiving is that Councillor Watling's motion was for debate and decision making, whereas Councillor Janke's motion has already been agreed to refer to scrutiny. Now, I mean, I'm happy with that advice. However,
we haven't agreed it. We'd like to discuss
haven't finished
his motion
speaking yet, Councillor Fletcher. However, in order to try and keep it nice and cool, I am going to read it out. Right. This council notes.
Thank you.
The School Streets Initiative aims to protect children from air pollution and road danger on the way to, from school, and a shift towards greener, more active forms of transport, which in turn reduces carbon emissions. B, this is achieved by closing streets next to schools to motor traffic at school run times. Children may get to school by walking, cycling, etc. Vehicles may park further away from school, and children and parents walk in. Exemptions exist for residents accessing properties. C, school streets are growing fast. London has gone from 81 to 383 school streets since April. D, in 2019, this council resolved to become carbon neutral by 2030. And E, this council has announced a £2.6 million investment into sustainable travel measures. F, further information regarding school streets can be found, and it gives the website. Do you want me to read that out? It's a successful scheme in Hackney Council. This council resolves to work collaboratively with councillors, schools and local partners to A, swiftly identify schools in the borough that could benefit from a school street scheme. B, following consultation, implement school streets at these schools as soon as possible, taking advantage of experimental traffic orders and statutory guidance over fast-track TROs. C, look to improve cycling and walking infrastructure where necessary, so such schemes are safely and practically accessible. D, introduces measures to promote walking and cycling in schools not suitable for school streets. Okay, it has been referred. There'll be a mover, a seconder, and then it will go. So can we keep to the time limits, please?
I'll be as quick as I can, Chair, if I may continue my speech.
Thank you.
So for those of us who have taken the time to watch the Hacking School Streets video, the basic idea is to restrict motor traffic at the school gates for a short period of time on the school run, providing a safer environment for pupils and parents, encouraging active travel to school, and a modal shift out of the car, thus reducing carbon emissions. In addition, they also enable social distancing outside the school gates with the increased pedestrian capacity, and improve the air quality and environment at the school gate. Please do not misunderstand, the video that was in the motion is simply there to help explain what school streets are, to help members and indeed the public better understand school streets. The heads of local schools in my ward, Newport Juniors, Newport Infants and indeed Burton Borough, are on board and want school streets around their schools to tackle 30 minutes of idling cars around their school gates. The head of William Reynolds Primary School in Woodside, the other side of the borough from where we are, would approve of the scheme in order to stop speeding up to the school gates. I'm certain that if we engage with heads around the borough, we will find very similar support. Prior to successive COVID-19 lockdowns, school street schemes had already been successfully introduced or were being trialled at multiple local authority areas in the UK. More recently, Shropshire County Council had unanimously passed a similar motion to introduce school streets across their local authority area, putting party politics to one side and appreciating the importance of our children's safety environment, and I hope we can follow that example. I understand that there is concern amongst members and indeed the public regarding the displacement of traffic during these short stints of time. It is true to say a handful of people may be inconvenienced because of introducing this scheme, despite the scheme meaning less traffic by default. For those residents with a need to use their car on the school run, typical of other school street models, drop-off points would be identified outside the exclusion zone. It is also important to note that residents on the street will have permits, who live in the exclusion zone on the streets, will have permits to drive in and out of their roads. Other sensible exemptions will exist, for example, for disabled children. Very recent nationwide polling carried out this month by YouGov found that 26% of people would strongly support lower traffic neighbourhoods and 31% would tend to. In contrast, only 8% strongly opposed. There is a national appetite for more healthy and sustainable transport measures, and that appears to be on the increase, which is vital in our fight locally and nationally in reducing carbon emissions and, more importantly, the risk to our school children. School streets will not work everywhere. Passing this motion, or indeed referring to scrutiny, does not impose the scheme on every school. A full assessment, including extensive local consultation, is vital before school streets are introduced at any specific school. But where we can introduce school streets, it will make an enormous positive difference to the lives of our children. Members, this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to be bold and positively impact the travel choices, including the associated benefits of air, health and road safety. And I would ask members to be open-minded and give our children the safe and healthy journey to school that they thoroughly deserve. Obviously, Chair, this has been referred to scrutiny, and we would welcome that considering the level of complexity in such a scheme. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Right, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bill Tomlinson, you're seconding.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm using my wife's device here. You probably can tell the difference. I've got a lot shorter hair. Yes, I wish to second this motion and thank the fantastic initiative taken by Councillor Yanker to put this motion to the council. I'm sure it would improve the safety of children going to school. It would improve their mental health and physical health, and it's been supported widely from the initiatives taken by the police and local heads. I'm more than happy for this to go to a scrutiny committee, Mr. Speaker, so that officers can look at it in more detail and it can get cross-party dialogue going on to discuss it. It must obviously take into account the unique characteristics pertaining to each school. I fully support this motion and it going into scrutiny. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Councillor. Legal advisor, I've got only two hands raised now. Do I assume that if they wish to make representation, they can do it at scrutiny?
Mr. Speaker, if the item stands referred, and that is a matter for you under Rule 9.2, then it will get added to an agenda for the Scrutiny Committee, and then members will be notified in the usual way through publication of the agenda. At that point, the usual scrutiny rules would apply.
Okay, I so rule. Then there will be no further debate. Anybody wishing to make representation can do so through scrutiny.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you for that.
Could you define which scrutiny committee, please?
Children and young persons, I believe.
Thank you. It's the first time it's been mentioned. Thank you.
Is that correct? Yes. Yeah, people are nodding. Yes, thank you. Right, I believe that's the end of business. I'd like to thank members for attending. We close the meeting. The next full council meeting will be on the 14th of January 2021. So my best wishes to you all. Thank you.